Then wise Telemachus answered him, and said, Menelaus, son of Atreus, fosterling of Zeus, leader of the host, all the more grievous it is, for in no way did this courage ward him from pitiful destruction, not though his heart within him had been very iron. But come, bid us to bed, that forthwith we may take our joy of rest beneath the spell of sleep. So spake he, and Argive Helen bade her handmaid set out bedsteads beneath the gallery, and fling them on fair purple blankets, and spread coverlets above. And thereon lay thick mantles, to be a clothing all over. So they went from the hall with torch in hand, and spread the beds, and the henchmen led forth the guests. Thus they slept there in the vestibule of the house, the hero Telemachus and the splendid son of Nestor. But the son of Atreus slept, as his custom was, in the innermost chamber of the lofty house, and by him lay long-robed Helen, that fair lady. Soon as early dawn shone forth, the rosy-fingered Menelaus of the loud war-shout gat him from his bed, and put on his raiment, and cast his sharp sword about his shoulder, and beneath his smooth feet bound his goodly sandals, and stepped forth from his chamber, in presence like a god, and sat by Telemachus, and spake him and hailed him. To what end hath thy need brought thee hither, hero Telemachus, unto fair Lacedaemon, over the broad back of the sea? Is it a matter of the common weal, or of thine own? Herein tell me the plain truth. All right, we're getting a little bit of a transition scene here today. They all go to bed, get some shut-eye, get some sleepy doops, and Menelaus is coming to Telemachus in the morning to ask him the true purpose of his journey. Don't know if we're to take that Helen's potion to balm their sorrowful souls is still in effect. I'm going to say maybe not. It's one of those like RPG moments. Any potion effects you have that last for one day wear off if your party goes to sleep overnight, goes back to camp for sleep. Then you have to put the spells and cantrips back on your party before you go out venturing again. I don't know that matters one way or the other. How about some just random trivia today? This passage makes a point of mentioning the bed placement, and usually in halls, this is reflecting status. So we have a giant palace of Menelaus here, and he is sleeping in the inner chambers. And you can imagine, as the king, this is not only a place of honor, but probably, again, I'm speaking of a place of naivety and ignorance, but I would imagine it's also a protective measure. You're king of an entire land, you're gonna want to be protected. Should there be a siege in the middle of the night, if you are sleeping in the innermost chambers, yes, you might be trapped, but you also have layers and layers of your palace that people would have to penetrate before they could get to you. I bet the smart ones have secret chambers and hidden passages and places you could escape if need be. Maybe. I don't know. This is ancient Greece. This isn't this isn't the Paris Opera House of Phantom of the Opera. But mentioned it before, and just want to keep reiterating that when we say the word dawn here, it is capital D dawn, because, and often with the rosy-fingered attached to it, as if it's a character. You know, I think that this is, I don't know that it would be a goddess or a godlike figure, but in the way that they don't call the planet Earth at this point. It's still Mother Gaia. Now, we haven't heard that specific thing yet, but I know that much, at least from reading all of my other Greek mythology stuff. There's a certain, I wouldn't call it personification, deification of all of these things, and dawn is also one of those because it is attributed to transformation from one day to the next, often in drama form. When dawn is evoked, it means the start of new decisive action. To wrap up some of our conversation about Xenia, to my understanding, the honorable kings, and hosts, if you will, would usually wait to do their serious questioning of their guests until the morning. So, again, this, I think, makes sense to really set the stage for who Menelaus is. He is abiding by customs and traditions as a way of honoring gods and his guests. Also wanted to pull out another tidbit from this Bernard Knox introduction to the Penguin Classics version. Paraphrasing here, but this is about Homer as the poet, author, performer. I'd mentioned that there's a Robert Graves book that I really want to read, claiming that the author of these stories is actually a blind girl. I think that's true. I want to say that I haven't read the book. I've only earmarked it as intriguing and wanting to pick up. So not knowing anything about that book, I probably shouldn't talk about it. But one thing I wanted to bring out here is that because there's so little concrete information, there's like a lot of academic interpretation that has to be done about who Homer is, whether it was a single person or not. But if you subscribe to the single author theory, then there's still some questionable details about who this person might have been. Interesting tidbit is that almost everyone who does subscribe to Homer as a single author believes that he was a blind man. There's some question about where maybe he originated, but I found this to be pretty interesting, that in this poem, we saw this in book 1, maybe a little bit in book 2, where the minstrel was singing, the songs that were to bring information and notes and entertainment to the masses. Homer does mention singing a lot, that he probably did sing when he was performing these stories live. However, with a tome as big as this, as we said yesterday or 2 days ago or whenever it was, there are 24 books of the Odyssey, even more when you include the Iliad, and even more when you include the books that have been lost to time. How do you keep that all in your mind? Well, it's believed that just like any other poet of his time, of later times, that he did actually write stuff down. Now, there's been no evidence of this. I mean, nothing has been brought forth through the ages. If it was written down, it certainly has been lost. I mean, the original stuff, I should say, Homer's originals. But interesting that even though it is a performance for an audience, that there's still a sort of script book that goes along with it, which, one thing that I'm very interested in that I've only scratched the surface of is how this was passed from performance to performance. Homer isn't going all over Greece performing this. I mean, maybe he is a little bit, but certainly not to the extent of which the story is being shared. So how does this move from one region to another? How does that performer in that new region at that new festival getting access to the story? Are they doing it from memory? Are they writing it down themselves? I'm sure all of the above and stuff in between that we aren't even thinking about. In my mind, I just created a scenario where someone is from a adjacent province is going to see Homer perform the Odyssey at one of the festivals and being like, God damn, this is so good. And then after the performance, writing down everything they remember from the performance that day, and then going back to the next day to get the next book and the next book and next book. And they're secretly writing all of their notes after the performances and then going back home and performing it on their own as if they wrote it themselves. That's a fiction that I just wrote in my own head. But that's how my stupid brain works. I get this information and you can't stop me. And when I come up with scenarios like that, suddenly I have 1,000 more questions that I want to go research, and I get that information. So that's more of what you have to look forward to over the next year. Maybe we'll eke out some sort of factual account of how the Odyssey and the Iliad and other Homeric poems were written before we're done here. Okay, that's all I've got for today. Join me here tomorrow for a little bit more of Book 4. Until then, okay, goodbye. Odyssey is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. The show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Odyssey, written by Homer. Theme song by Neuroflow. You can support this show and other shows like it by going to patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.